Okay. Bruchim habayim. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Continuing the laws of Shabbat, learning Hilchot Shabbat Kodesh. Very important study, Baruch Hashem, for all of us to know. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. We're learning for the Refuah Shlema of Kol Cholei Yisrael. B'Ezras Hashem, anyone who needs a Refuah Shlema should get it, specifically for Shachar ben Chana, Shmuel Moshe ben Pnina, Rabbi Baruch ben Sivya. Any other names if anyone wants to add? Avram and Tamara. Nasrin Bat Zari. Moshe ben Chana. Nili Bat Zoya. Bela Chaya Bat Osnat. Mordechai Merda ben Evelyn. May they all have a refuah shlema b'toch shar cholei Yisrael. Amen. Okay. So we spoke, Baruch Hashem, about Melechet Zorea, Baruch Hashem. We spoke also about Melechet Choresh. So we spoke about planting and about plowing and all of the practical applications that come up from those Melachot on Shabbat. Tonight, I want to introduce the third Melacha on the list of the 39 Melachot, which is Melechet Kotzer. That's the laws of harvesting. The melacha of harvesting on Shabbat. Harvesting means when you detach something from the ground or something from a tree because you need it. So, for example, a person has an apple on the tree, you go and you pluck the apple off of the tree. That's the melacha of harvesting on Shabbat. Where was this done? In the construction of the Mishkan, as we mentioned in the past. All the melachot of Shabbat were originally done in the construction of the Mishkan. And the answer is that, like we've been speaking about, they had to plant dyes in order to color the curtains of the Mishkan. So therefore, in order to get those dyes, you had to plant these plants, and then you had to take them out of the ground. And then there was a whole procedure how to make this dye, this color. So the detaching of something from its life source, whether it's a tomato from the vine or whether it is an orange from the tree, right? All of these things are considered to be melechet kotzer. Now, there are lots of different practical applications that we need to be aware of. By the way, it doesn't have to be only a fruit or a vegetable. It could be that if, let's say, somebody desires a branch from the tree because he wants to use it for anything that he may need. He wants to use it to whip his animals. He wants to use a branch for whatever. The point is he's plucking it off of the tree, and therefore it's melechet kotzer, the melacha called harvesting. Clear? So far, so good? Okay, excellent. Now, Chazal were concerned that if you do certain things, even though they are not directly related to melechet kotzer, but they were afraid that if you do this action, you may come to violate melechet kotzer. So there are a bunch of these types of rules that the rabbis created, even though it is permissible to do them on a Torah level. The rabbis said, don't do them because we're afraid if you do, you may come to detach something from a tree or from its life source, and therefore it's a problem. So first of all, there's one gezerah called perot hanoshrim, which means fruit that fell from a tree. As you know, you're not allowed to take a fruit off of the tree on Shabbat. But what happens if a fruit fell from the tree on Shabbat? So the rabbis made a rule that even though you did not go and detach it yourself, but the fact that it fell from a tree on Shabbat is a problem, because if you go and you take that fruit now and you eat it, Chazal were afraid, Shema ya'aleh v'yitlosh, he may come to go up and take another fruit. So you had that apple that just fell off the tree, say, wow, that was delicious. And you go and you take another one. So therefore, the rabbis made a decree against perot hanoshrim. So fruit that was detached from the tree may not be eaten on Shabbat. Okay? That's called perot hanoshrim. Clear? So far, so good? Okay, excellent. And by the way, this doesn't only apply to fruits. Like I said, it could be a branch. When a person, let's say, goes and takes off a flower from the ground, that's also called kotzer because you want the flower. It could be a nice dandelion. It could be a nice lily, whatever it is. You're detaching it from the ground. Or it could be hadassim from a hadassim bush. That is something which would present a problem. However, by the way, if it's already detached from the ground, let's say you have a cluster of grapes or a branch that already is detached from the tree, you would not have a problem to take off fruits from that branch if it was already detached from the tree, or like we all take grapes off of the cluster because they're already detached. So you don't have that problem. Okay. What? Let's say we know that if it's already off of the tree or off of the vine, like a cluster of grapes where you pick a grape off the cluster, there's no problem, right? Because it's not attached to the vine anymore. It's in your bowl at home.
Oh,
right?
okay, so.
Let's say you have a branch with apples on it, but the branch was detached from the tree.
Right.
No problem, right? Because it's not attached to the tree anymore.
So how is that different than fruit that before?
The point is it was detached from it wasn't on Shabbat on a tree. Before Shabbat, it was already detached.
Oh, I
Right?
see.
Yeah.
Purposefully detached.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Yes.
Is this just been a review so far?
No, this is all new stuff.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Great. So now we have to talk about some other things that the rabbis made as a prohibition. Let's start with the easy stuff first. The rabbi said, do not go ahead and smell fruits that are attached to trees in case you may come to cut them off and eat them. So don't go up to an orange and smell it while it's attached to the tree. You could go up to, let's say, hadassim that are attached to the bush of hadassim because there's no concern you may come to cut them off and eat them. They're not edible. But something which is edible, you should not go up to them and eat and smell them because we're afraid that you might come to eat them. Okay, another important decree that the rabbis made. This one is I don't think people know about this one as much. This is called hishtamshut be'ilan, which means not using a tree. The rabbis were concerned that if a person makes use of a tree on Shabbat, he may come to tear off or rip off a branch of the tree for something that he needs, which would be the violation midoraita of Melachot Kotzer. So the rabbis prohibited any usage of a tree at all, which means the following. You cannot climb on a tree. You cannot lean your weight against the tree. You can't shake the tree. You cannot place objects on a tree. You cannot remove objects from a tree on Shabbat. Again, any usage of the tree is forbidden on Shabbat. You could put your finger on a tree and touch it. That's not a problem. But you cannot actually lean your weight on the tree. Understand? That's called using the tree. That's a problem. You cannot what? You cannot climb on the tree, lean on the tree, shake the tree, right?
What about the shade?
What?
I want to sit under the
You could sit under a tree, right? But you cannot actually make use of the tree.
So you can't lean up, you can't sit and put your back on the tree.
Correct. Okay? Cannot lean your weight on the tree. Okay. Now, there's going to be an important rule. B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach. I want to try to explain this rule as clearly as possible. It's a little tricky, so we have to just pay attention to the details here.
Smelling flowers in the trees.
Yes. Okay. So let's try and get this next set of halachot clear. Okay. It's not only the tree that you cannot use, even something that is attached to the tree may not be used. Okay. So for example, if let's say somebody took a nail and hammered it into the trunk of the tree. So now there's this beautiful nail, maybe that has a little hook on it, protruding from the tree. You're not allowed, even on that, to put, let's say, to hang your coat up on the tree. Can't do that, okay? Now, I want you to get this clear. The term for this is called, there's one term that you must know, and there's going to be another one that's similar to this, so get it clear. This is called tzdadim. Sadi, dalid, yud, mem, tzdadim. Okay? Tzdadim. Tzdadim means not the tree itself, but something that is attached to the tree. Okay? We're not only prohibited from using the tree, we're prohibited from using the tzdadim of the tree. Okay? So, for example, I want to take my coat and throw it onto a branch. There's a low branch, and it's perfect for me to take my coat and put it onto that branch, and it'll hang on the branch. That we cannot do. That's called using the tree itself. I want to take my coat and hang it up on a nail that is hanging out of the tree. Also asur. Why? Because that's called tzdadim. Okay? The word tzad is the same thing as in English. Side, tzad. It's almost the same word, right? Just like the word perot is like the word fruit, ferot. You hear the similarity? Perot, fruit. Right? A lot of the words are similar. So tzdadim are the sides, which means that it's directly attached to the tree. So here you have a nail hammered in the tree. You cannot put something on that nail. You cannot take something off of that nail. Clear? Okay. I'll give it to you in a little bit more of a complicated case. Here you have your coat. You left your coat on a branch. You left your coat on a branch before Shabbat. In your coat was your sidur. Okay? Let's talk about it. What would we call that? The branch itself is the tree. The coat is tzdadim. Right? So you are now taking something off of the tzdadim. It's the same way that you can't take your coat off of the nail. Here you can't take your sidur out of the coat. Understand?
But it's not attached. It's just on.
The point is, it doesn't have to. Tzdadim means attached. The point is, it doesn't have to be literally attached. The point is that it's on. Yeah, it's directly on the tree. So you cannot make use of something directly on the tree.
You mean because the coat is on the tree, we cannot take the siddur from the pocket?
Correct.
Anyway, we cannot put the coat on the tree.
Anyway, you can't put the coat on the tree, and really you shouldn't leave the coat on the tree because you're going to need the coat. And that's another rule. The rabbi said anything.
You might chill it up the tree. So
you might come to take it off the tree. Yeah, and that we don't, you need your coat, right? You guys know the story with the stipler going? You know the story with the stipler? The stipler was the father of Rav Chaim Kanievsky. That's all. Stipler had a famous story. Stipler was in the army in Russia. He was a young man, but he was a brilliant Gaon. And the Russians made you go to the army. So he was on guard. He was on duty in his base. And the way that it worked was that if you're watching the base at night, so there's a special coat that they give you. Because if you have to guard the base outdoors, so then it's freezing at night in Russia and wherever they were. So they had a special coat for the guy who was outside. The stipler had a little predicament. He goes, it's his turn to watch the base, and he goes outside, and the fellow that just came in took the coat off and put it on the tree that was right by the front of the base, expecting the stipler going to take it off the tree and put it on. He didn't realize there was any issue for it. So the stipler saw that the coat was on the tree. Can't take the coat off the tree on Shabbat. He was freezing. So he said, there's no question on earth I'm allowed to take the coat off the tree. I'm allowed. 100% permissible. Why? Pikuach nefesh. Person might die if he doesn't have the proper heat to withstand the cold. He says, there's no question I'm allowed. So maybe I could last 5 more minutes. He decided to push it off 5 more minutes. Now, I'm not suggesting anybody do this, but this is what he did. He said, okay, maybe I can push it off 5 more minutes. He pushes it off. And then he says, 5 minutes are up. He says, there's no question I'm allowed to take the coat. 100% mutar. It's not violating Shabbat. It's fine. He said, maybe I can wait another 5 minutes. He pushed it off. And then 5 minutes came, and he said again, 1,000,000% mutar. I'm allowed to take the coat. Maybe I can push it off another 5 minutes. And he kept on pushing it off until eventually his entire shift was over, and the whole time he didn't have the coat on. It's, when we talk about Gedolei Yisrael, again, was it permissible to take the coat? 100%. Would the average guy take the coat? Yes. And should he take the coat? Yes. If anybody asks you, should you take the coat? 100%. But certain people, they're like Muslim nefesh in ways that you can't believe. The same rabbi, the Stipler Gaon, when he got to Israel, so apparently they used to have trains from Europe still being able to reach Israel, and this was before the state existed. And he got to Israel, and he married the sister of the Chazon Ish. The sister of the Chazon Ish was expecting a date, that would be a normal date. She comes back to the Chazon Ish, who was the Gedol Hador, and she tells him, listen, I want to see him again. And he says, why? The whole time he was falling asleep. The whole time he was falling asleep. So he said, okay, let me talk to him. So he goes and he asks the rabbi, the Stipler, I don't understand. I set you up with my sister the whole time you're sleeping on her. What's the matter? He says, you don't understand. I had just come in from a very long train ride, and the seats that they had, I had a concern they might be shatnez, wool and linen mixed together, and my body would get heated from the shatnez. So I stood the whole time, hours and hours and hours, maybe even days, and he was standing all day, wouldn't sit down. So the Chazon Ish said to her, don't worry, it's fine. Marry him. He's a tzaddik. And they had Chaim Kanievsky together. Amazing. So that's special Mr. Nefesh. But anyway, you see from here the idea that it's true. This is a halacha. It's clear. You're not supposed to take things off of the tree. So now let's get back to the very important rules here. So again, if it's the tree itself, you cannot put something on, take something off. Even if it is once removed from the tree. For example, it's not the tree itself, but it's a nail in the tree, right? Or it's a coat hanging off the tree. So that is also prohibited. That's called tzdadim. Okay, very important to get that clear. Now comes the next very important rule. What happens if it's twice removed from the tree? So for example, it's not tzdadim, but it's tzadei tzdadim, meaning twice removed from the tree. For example, a tree that has a nail hanging out of it and a coat hanging on the nail. Okay, so now your coat is not directly on the tree itself. Your coat is on the nail hanging off of the tree. In this case, we say that while you cannot take the coat off of the nail, why? Because like we said, that would be called using the nail. The nail is only once removed, that's tzdadim, right? You can't take the coat off the nail. But if, let's say, you have a sidur inside of the coat, now you could take the sidur out of the coat. Why? Because the coat is not once removed from the tree. The coat is twice removed from the tree. It's not tzdadim, it's tzadei tzdadim. And therefore, you could take the sidur out of the coat. Let's give another example. A basket on a nail that's attached to a tree. So somebody before Shabbat put a basket on the tree. The basket has lots of fruit. So if it's directly on a branch on the tree, like we said, it's directly on the tree. Can you take a fruit out of a basket that was placed over a branch of the tree? No. Why? Because the basket is once removed from the tree. That's tzdadim. The very same basket with fruit inside of it placed on a nail that's banged into the tree, that you would be allowed to take a fruit out of that basket. Why? Because the fruit is using the basket. The fruit is not using the nail that's in the tree. The fruit is in the basket. So again, you have the nail, which is once removed. The basket is twice removed. The fruit is coming out of the basket. So therefore, it's okay. It's tzdadim. Clear?
I don't get it.
I'm sorry. Let's try it one more time. Ready?
Just the term. Like,
Okay.
the
Tzdadim. Okay. I don't know why the rabbis chose to use this terminology of sides versus sides of sides. I don't know why that's the term that they used, but this is what they're saying. They're saying if you're using the tree directly, it's a problem. Even if you're using the tree in a way that's once removed from the tree, like the nail that's hanging out of the tree, right? You want to put a coat on that nail, take a coat off that nail, it's a problem, right? Okay. You want to put a basket on that nail, you want to take a basket off that nail, it's still a problem. But let's say that the basket already is there on the nail, which is put into the tree, right? So now, if you want to put something in that basket or take something off that basket, it's fine. Why? Because that basket is not tzdadim, but rather it's tzdadim. It's not attached to the tree, right? It's attached to something which is attached to the tree.
It's something that's attached to the side of the tree.
The point is, side is not the issue here. The point is, it's twice removed. So if I want to put a fruit in that basket or take a fruit out of that basket, that's fine. If I have a sidur in my coat and my coat is on the branch, I cannot take the sidur out of my coat because my coat is directly on the tree. But if, let's say, I have my sidur in my coat and my coat is hanging on to a nail that's in the tree, so then I can take the sidur out of my coat because the coat is twice removed. It's tree, nail, and then coat. So I can't take the coat off because that's using the nail. I can't do that. But I can take the sidur out of my coat because the coat is on a nail. So the coat is already twice removed from the tree. And then I can take the sidur in and out of it. Clear? Better?
But what if it causes the nail to be removed?
By taking the sidur out? Okay, so then you have a problem. You're right.
Would that be separation?
If you know that that's the case, if you know that that's really going to happen, usually if it's hammered in, it's not really going to be removed. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So we can't take fruit that fell on the floor, but we can take the fruit that fell into the basket.
What you're saying? You're saying fruit from the tree that fell on Shabbat?
Yeah.
No.
You're saying fruit that was just
I have,
placed into the
it happens to
basket.
be
It didn't
fruit
fall
that
from
was
the tree.
I went to ShopRite, I got a basket full of fruit and I put it on the tree.
Got it.
Imagine.
Right. That's
No,
it
I
could
know
be
it meant the fruit are like
No, no,
falling
no.
into the
no.
bucket.
Fruit falling from a tree on Shabbat is forbidden no matter where it falls.
Okay,
Whether it
yeah.
falls on the ground, it falls into a basket, because that fruit there's a decree against that fruit that we're afraid I might eat it and then go take more.
Yeah, makes
which would
sense.
be-
You were just using fruit as an example.
Yeah, it could be raffle tickets.
Okay.
I was just giving an example. You know what I mean?
Very advanced
Yeah.
test question.
What?
Like
Yeah.
Good test question.
Right.
Multiple choice.
Right. Okay, so is that clear? Okay, so let's talk about some practical applications. Yes, you have a question.
Just, why did Chazal take it this far?
And the whole concern is that you may come to take something off of the tree.
So
Right.
they went even to Tzadim and then,
Yeah, you may come to take something off. It could be a fruit, could be a branch that you need for whatever reason. So no usage of a tree whatsoever.
it's like a double fence.
Yeah, a lot of times, by the way, I mean, just as a practical example, a person is going down a little hill that's a little steep, and there are a couple of like trees that are hanging out there that are maybe not so big, and you grab onto it and you move the branches as you're walking down the hill. It's a problem. You can't do that on Shabbat, right?
So
Gotta
what
make
if,
sure to take a different route.
so what if I'm pushing my stroller on
Okay.
the sidewalk, and branches are sticking out or something, and I don't want it to go on my kid's face? I know it's
Yeah.
like every time I like kind of think, I was like, that's books, I'm like, when are they going?
Right. So, okay, that's a little different. As you're walking, you're not trying to use a tree over there. You're not trying to lean your weight. You're just trying to get it out of your way.
Right.
So, as long as, you can't like, you're asking, can you go like this and get rid of all the branches, you're saying?
No, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
do that. I kind of like pretend like I don't know what I'm doing and I just.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. As long as you're just trying to walk and, stuff is in your way and it gets moved as you're walking, no problem.
Right. Okay.
That's no problem. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about the most practical applications that I could think of. I think of hammocks and I think of swings, right? Okay, so a hammock, there are two ways of making a hammock. One, a hammock is that thing in between two trees, and you kind of want to rest it on that net item in the middle. So it's going to depend how you do it. If you attach the rope to the branches directly, so then your hammock is tzdadim. You can't use it, right? Because you're attaching the rope to the trees directly. It's a problem, right? But if, let's say, you attach the hammock to a nail, right, that is on the tree, what? Is that not possible?
It's just cool.
It makes a difference, right? It makes a difference. Yeah, it makes a big difference. It's the difference between tzdadim versus tzidei tzdadim. So I don't know how I said it before. Is it tzidei tzdadim or tzidei tzdadim? It's kind of hard terminology. I think it's tzidei tzdadim. Fine. So again, if it's attached directly to the branch, it's a problem. But if it's attached to a nail and you wrap the rope around the nail and it's not on the tree itself, then you wouldn't have a problem because now your hammock is tzidei tzdadim and therefore it's okay.
But why with the sidur you had a problem, but with this you don't have?
So the sidur, you have a problem if it's on the branch itself. In other words, I have a coat.
If it's on the nail, it's still a problem.
No. Coat on a nail
That's attached to a tree.
is good. You could take a sidur out of that.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, I'm talking about coat on a branch, right? If the coat is directly on a branch, then you cannot take the sidur because the coat is once removed and the sidur is using that once removed item. That's a problem. But if the coat is on a nail and then you're taking it out, so then the coat is twice removed, so you could take in and out of the coat.
The coat also you could remove.
No, you cannot remove the coat. The coat is using the nail that's once removed.
Oh, I hear.
So the coat has to stay. With the sidur, you can take in and out. Yeah.
But if the hammock is attached to the nail, you're using the nail. You're not taking something.
You're
out
using
of
the hammock. You're using the hammock. The hammock is twice removed.
Yeah, but you're not taking something.
You're the
out of
sidur.
hammock.
You are now the sidur out of the coat. You are the sidur that's being removed from the coat of the.
Oh,
You being in the hammock is like the sidur being in the coat. What? You're the fruit in the basket.
But I look at that as like,
Right.
let's say, moving the coat from the nail, because that's like the hammock is like the coat on the nail.
If you would take the hammock off the nail, then you have a problem. It's like taking the coat off the nail. That's a problem. You're using the nail, right?
So you're still using the nail by using the hammock, because the hammock wouldn't be.
We look at what you are directly involved with. You're directly involved with hammock. You're not directly involved with nail. It's true. If you didn't have the nail, your hammock would be falling to the ground and you wouldn't be. It's true. But we look at it as what are you directly involved with? You're involved with the hammock. Okay, that's twice removed, right? Are you involved with the nail? If you're taking a hammock off the nail, taking a coat off the nail. Oh, now you're involved with the nail. Nail is once removed. That's a problem. Understand? Okay. Okay. Another case this comes up with is a swing. So the swings that I'm used to, at least the ones that I've seen, ones that I've got for, let's say, trees by me, is what they do is they give you a rope. You wrap the rope around the branch. So let's say you have a branch, I don't know, it's 20 feet up in the air. So you wrap the rope around the branch, and then they give you a long rope with a hook that hooks into the rope that is placed around the branch. What? That's twice removed, right? So I'm involved not with the branch. I'm not involved with the rope around the branch. I'm involved with the long rope that hangs down from the rope. So therefore that's okay. But if, let's say, you would wrap your swing directly around the branch, that'd be a problem. That would be tzdadim, right? Clear? 100%? Okay, great. Just one point about that. You have to make sure that when you use the swing, your tree does not move. In other words, it has to be a strong branch that the branch does not move. If let's say, what?
Sorry, does the same go for him?
Yes. Same goes for hammock. Very good point. If your hammock causes the trees to bend, to move, and all that, now you're really using the tree because it's moving because of you. So that's no good. So that would disqualify your hammock and disqualify your what's it called? Swing as well. Clear? Good? Okay, great. Very good. So these are all decrees that maybe you might come to do Melachot Kotzer. All right. Kotzer, harvesting. May come to take something off of a tree or off of the ground, which is attached to the ground, which is a problem. Okay. Another couple of points in the laws of Kotzer. Chazal made a rule that you're not allowed to use any animal on Shabbat. You cannot ride on an animal, you cannot ride on a pony, a horse, anything like that. You cannot ride on a donkey, even if it's your own donkey. The reason for this is, again, believe it or not, related to Melachot Kotzer, the fear that you might come to take something off of a tree. What will you take off the tree? It used to be that, and still to this day to some effect, they needed, in order to get the animals to move, you have to either poke it with something or whip it with something. And a lot of times trees have branches or even some lighter, maybe more flexible, perhaps vines or things like that you can actually use as a whip or use as a prod or something like that that you can use to get your animals to move. So therefore, the rabbis made a rule: you cannot ride on any animal, you cannot use any animal, lean your weight on any animal, nothing to do with animals on Shabbat, because of the fear you may come to take something off of a tree. Yes.
What about like in Central Park, those things that they, not like a real horse and carriage, but like, it's like a more simple thing that people can ride on sometimes.
An
Like-
animal?
No, you're not riding on an animal, but you'll have somebody taking you with like, I don't know if it's
A bike or something?
it's something like that.
Something like a bike?
Yeah.
Some kind of carrying device. And you want to go in that on
The
Shabbat?
non-Jew takes you.
Interesting.
Can they do that?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to do that on Shabbat. It's unless there's some kind of great need, something like that. It's important to know. I mean, we could talk about it in general, not much time, but I would think more like something like an Uber, like an animal, like a car that's being driven like a taxi or something like that. It's important to be aware. If you ever get stuck, let's say you're driving on a highway, you're trying to get somewhere before Shabbat, and you realize that you're just not getting to your destination, right? You have to, get to the side of the road and you cannot drive anymore. There's nothing for you to do. Could be that you've got kids in the car, it's a disaster. You have, what are you gonna do? I once had a friend of mine driving up to Connecticut for Shabbat, and there was a standstill on I-95, and they left very early, but for hours, it just wasn't moving. And they called the rabbi, their rabbi at the time I was living in Brooklyn, and the rabbi told them, you got to get off to the side of the road. If you can find a hotel, great. If not, stay in the car the whole Shabbat. And these guys stayed in the car the whole Shabbat. They were freezing. And I think the guy told me he had some challah that he was bringing up to his daughter in Connecticut. And they had some challah. He stuck in the car the whole Shabbat. Disaster. So Baruch Hashem, since then, there's been an invention called Uber, right? Now, I don't know in their case if they would be allowed to use an Uber, but I would tell anybody that is stuck in a situation like that, and they need to get somewhere, and they've got, especially if they have kids, smartest thing to do would be to order an Uber. I think, and that guy who comes to pick you up will take you. You pay for it ahead of time, so you don't have to worry about payment. And you tell the guy, listen, you open the door for me, you close the door, you take out the stuff for me, you do everything for me, and that's it. The guy does everything, and you're stuck in a situation, you're in a highway in the middle of nowhere. So it'd be better, to do something like that, in my humble opinion. What?
What about your car?
Park it somewhere. I had a cousin recently. What?
Like dangerous?
Listen, I had a cousin recently. He was coming here from Lakewood, and he was coming to spend Shabbat in my house. And he and his wife, they just got married. They were on the way to me, and it was just not moving. And it said they were stuck by Little Neck, by Har Torah over there. And it was saying it's another hour drive from there here. It's not moving. So he didn't know what to do. And he wasn't calling me. So he got out. They got out of the car. They parked by Har Torah, and they walked all the way here. I felt so bad. I felt so bad. I said, the guys, you have a thing. In my opinion, I mean, it took them a long time to get here. In such a case, I think you have a header. You could order an Uber. It'll help you to get here, more or less.
But in what situation do
Well-
you have to do that? Like what time frame?
I think the point is when you're stuck and you don't have any, you just don't have any option, and it's between that or just you're getting to. They ended up getting to me at like 11:45. You know what I'm saying? Like so long.
So late?
I felt so bad, but
Like
you're
is there
literally
anything
walking for
that
hours.
happens
What?
like,
What's that?
It's like 15 or 20 minutes or something after.
So
the-
beforehand, park your car, anticipate what's about to happen, park your car, and do that. It'll save you a lot of headache, a lot of.
So if his car
disaster.
wasn't moving, no Uber could get to them and move.
Okay, but at least what I'm saying.
In the
Yeah,
Uber before tomorrow.
Yeah, at least have somebody a goy
Oh,
driving for you.
At least you're stuck in
Yeah.
traffic, okay.
No, but I'm saying it's not gonna take you. It's not gonna take you 4 hours. It might take you 1 hour. Is that what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, in that kind of case, you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. If you have a community that could take you in, that's something else. But if you're stuck in a situation, what can you do? It's a situation, Okay. If you are in a very crazy situation like that, you have leniency. There's room for leniency. Okay. So we spoke about Melachot Kotzer, about the different situations that come up. I want to mention a couple of more points in Melachot Kotzer that are important to speak about. Number one, if you have a plant, okay, if your plant has a hole in it, or even if it doesn't have a hole in it, but it is either made of ceramic, meaning like a regular, like the porcelain type pot, or it's made of wood. So then even if it doesn't have a hole, if it is outdoors, then you may not lift it up. You may not relocate it. The reason is because those plants are considered to be getting their nourishment from the ground. So therefore, if you move it and it has a hole there on the bottom, you're like detaching it from the ground. It's the problem. Or even the opposite way. Let's say it's high up. It's hanging from one of those pergolas or whatever. And then you put it down onto the ground. You're actually increasing its nourishment. So that's more like zorea, like planting in a way, because you're helping it to grow. It's a problem. Okay? So that's important to be aware of.
Only if it has a hole.
If it has a hole, or if it's made out of like pottery or wood. If it's made out of glass or metal, then this does not apply unless it has a hole. The regular plants, what do they come in? Like a ceramic type thing?
Oh, that's an issue. Really.
Yeah. Now this all applies when it's on the open outdoor environment, on dirt. But if let's say it's inside the house, it's indoors, then this does not apply. The only one who was machmir about it is the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish was strict about it even if it's indoors. So you can't move pots with a hole, potted plants with a hole, even if it is indoors. But most poskim are lenient about it.
What if someone gives you a plant as a gift?
Mhm.
Are you allowed to take it on Shabbat?
Well, there's generally a question about gifts on Shabbat. It depends on what he had in mind. You could have in mind not to acquire it, the gift, but as far as the plant element is concerned, you want to make sure that if it has a hole, you're
No,
just
there's no hole.
no hole.
Yeah, it's just in its original form, and someone gives you a plant.
Is it in some kind of a container?
Yeah.
Okay, so
You're
if
not harvesting.
it's indoors, then it's okay.
And what about gifts on Shabbat? Like
Gifts on
when-
Shabbat are a separate issue. That's a different.
Like if somebody invites you, are you allowed to give them a gift?
So what you do is, so first of all, if it's food, the answer is yes. You're allowed to bring food. But what you do is, if you ever have a gift you want to gift somebody, there's something called zichya, which means that you can go, let's say, to someone and you can tell them, okay, listen, I want to give this book to Mrs. So-and-so, right? So I want you, Mr. So-and-so, to please lift it up and acquire it for her on her behalf. Now it belongs to her. There's a rule like that. If let's say I see $100 in the street, and I say, you know what, Mrs. Hakim, she likes $100. So I want to lift up the $100 in the street, and I want it to belong now to Mrs. Hakim, right?
On Shabbat?
Not on Shabbat, on a weekday. So now the halacha is it's your $100. The rule is called zachin le'adam shelo b'fanav, which means I have the right to acquire something for you, even though you're not there, even though I don't have your permission, because it's safe to assume that you would be happy with the $100 that I find. So the same thing applies to any other gift that you want to give somebody. You want to give someone a gift, you can ask somebody else to take the gift, lift it up, acquire it for that person that you want to give it to. Now, we're not talking about your husband. It has to be somebody that's not related to you, right? And that person will acquire it, and then it will belong to the individual that you are trying to give possession to. And that way, it's not a problem of giving the gift on Shabbat because it already belonged to them before Shabbat. No?
Why is it a problem
No?
in the first place? Like, why
We
do you
don't-
need this middle person?
We don't know in general. So either you give the gift literally to them before Shabbat, and then obviously you solve the problem of giving a gift on Shabbat. But if that's an issue and you can't reach them before Shabbat, give it to somebody else to acquire it for them on their behalf. And that way, when you come with it on Shabbat, they already owned it before Shabbat.
But you have to do that if you just.
Yes.
But why?
Not to a goy, to another man. Find some other man, give it to him, or have your husband give it to him, and that way he will acquire it for that person on Shabbat.
But what's the problem? Like,
We don't make acquisitions on Shabbat because of the fear. That's a different melacha. We'll get to there. The fear that you might come to write things down. Different issues. It's a separate issue.
So is it a sin to give somebody?
No, in general, no, but on
On
Shabbat,
Shabbat, I'm
it's a
saying on
problem.
Shabbat.
Yeah, Shabbat, you shouldn't do it.
Wait, but
They're
food
different.
doesn't matter, food and wine?
Food, we say, is not a problem generally. But
Like,
it's always good, and just in case, to give over the bottle of wine or whatever to somebody and let them own it ahead of time. But it's not required. Okay, good. One more thing to think about. Have you guys ever planted an avocado pit? You ever done these things? We take the avocado core and you put like the wooden sticks inside of it and you put it inside of a glass of water. You ever done this? And then like the avocado starts to grow. You see it take root inside of your water, right?
it's so cool.
It does that. And you can actually make a whole tree out of it. It's pretty cool if it works well. Sometimes it doesn't grow at all. So you put the pit, you take the core of the avocado, you put the wooden sticks inside and you have it sit in the water and it starts to grow. In the event that it's really taking root in the water, if you then remove it from the water, believe it or not, that's Kotzer, because its life source is the water, right? So therefore, to then go ahead and take it out would be Melachot Kotzer. Clear? Yes.
Two questions.
Yeah.
First of all, are you allowed to do that avocado thing on Shabbat?
No, that would be Zoreah. That would be planting.
Okay, and then also, there's like this thing where if you put the avocado bit in water, supposedly it keeps, I never tried it, but someone told me that. It keeps the avocado from turning brown. So like if you're making a salad before your guests come, you put the avocado bit in the water. And then supposedly it keeps the avocado green forever.
You just put the avocado pit,
Just the pit in water.
and then
Even if it's away from the. Wait,
Really?
is that what we're doing?
really, and it keeps your avocado in the fridge
For days.
on the table
Right.
because you put the thing in water. That's so cool. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Okay, that's very nice. I didn't know that. So no, you can't do that on Shabbat because that's how the avocado pit grows. That would be planting it. You might not have it in mind, but it's secretion. Right?
Wait,
It's
what
a
about
problem.
putting the pits in the
What?
avocado?
What?
Like you made like a guacamole and then you put the pits inside the guacamole.
That's okay.
That's fine.
That's okay because that's not causing the pit to grow.
Yeah, but it's nourishing the avocado from turning brown.
It's just like it's not growing. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, fine, very good. Okay, fine. Even though we said you're not allowed to use a tree on Shabbat, but if let's say you want to sit on a dead tree stump, that is permissible because of the fact that it is it's considered to be a dead stump. There are no shoots growing out of it, so therefore it's not called using a tree. Okay, person has a tree house, obviously on Shabbat. You cannot use the tree house on Shabbat, right? I mean, it's using a tree, right? You're using the tree. You can't climb up the tree. You can't use the tree. It's a problem. You can't take a ladder, put it against the tree, go up the ladder. It's using the tree. That's the name of the ladder. What? Of the tree. You should train them not to. You should train them not to go into the tree house on Shabbat.
Turn around.
Oh, like hide and go seek?
Like red light.
Okay, so they're just, they're not really leaning on the tree. They're just around the tree. Okay, that's fine. They're not using it. Right? Yes.
So those dead the dead branches, so if you're walking in an area with a bunch of branches on the ground, you can just walk.
Yeah.
No issue with it.
Right. Okay, fine. Very good. Okay, now the next section is about Melachot Me'amer. I don't know how much time we have left. It looks like we're kind of running out of time, but I can go into it if you don't mind. Yeah, we have more Me'amer. Okay, let's do this. Let's try and we'll do it as quickly as possible. Melacha number 4, okay, is called Melachot Me'amer. Mem, Ayin, Mem, Resh, which means gathering. Mem, Ayin, Mem, Resh, Me'amer. Now, what this means is the following. Believe it or not, there's only one place in the entire Torah where someone was killed for violating Shabbat. And the Gemara tells us that, according to one opinion, this was actually the famous gentleman by the name of Tzilofchad. You guys know the story about Tzilofchad? Right? And he had daughters. They're famous, right? Right? Machla, Noah, Chogla, Milkat, Yitzhak, right? They had 5 daughters that were complaining, how come we're not getting an inheritance in the land? Because we're just girls. We want to have an inheritance. And Hashem agreed with them and gave the inheritance of their father Tzilofchad to them. Why did he die? So the Gemara says, because according to one opinion, he was the fellow that decided to violate Shabbat in the desert. What was he doing? So the Torah says that they found a man on Shabbat in the camp of the Jewish people, mekoshesh etzim, which means he was gathering wood. He was gathering wood together. And gathering wood falls under the melacha called me'amer, gathering. They say that Tzilofchad was actually a big tzaddik. He was a righteous man. And his intentions were to show everyone that when Hashem says that desecration of Shabbat is punishable by death, that actually is true. And he wanted everyone to see that he is going to be killed by stoning for violating Shabbat, and that's what happened to him. So he actually had intentions that were holy. Be it as it may, the melacha that he violated was me'amer, which means gathering. Now, what this melacha means is that if there are things that grew, let's say in the field, lots of different fruits, lots of different vegetables, different plants, whatever it may be, you go ahead and you take them and you gather them together. So that's part of the process of getting your, let's say we're talking about the dyes, the plants that made the dyes, you have to gather them all together first and make them one unit to then take them and use them. So the act of gathering is a melacha midoraita. Now, this only applies to things that grow from the ground. If let's say a person has, I don't know, forks and knives that spilled everywhere and he gathers them together, that's not the melacha of me'amer. And it's also only when it's outdoors where it grows. If let's say it was indoors, so then it's not something which is the melacha of me'amer. Also, if it was already gathered together at one point and then it's spilled and now you're regathering it, so then on a Torah level, it's not a problem of me'amer, just that it might look like me'amer and rabbinically it's prohibited, which we're going to talk about, but on a Torah level, it's not because of the fact that it was already once gathered. So let's talk about some practical cases that could come up. So if a person has, let's say, a bunch of fruits outside, let's say that he's got a few apple trees, pear trees, and there were a bunch of rotten pears that fell to the ground, and he's gathering them together, he wants to get rid of them. So that you cannot do because that's me'amer. He's gathering together pears, right, that are outdoors. That's a problem, me'amer. If let's say that he's got a fruit basket that spills. So over here, this is an interesting case. Remember, we said that once they're gathered already, it cannot be me'amer anymore on a Torah level. But the rabbis did prohibit it if it's outdoors. So for example, the guy has a basket of fruit and it spills all over the place. So if it's spilled in one pile, it's still together, no problem, put it back in your basket. If it's spilled all over the place, so now, even though it's not me'amer on a Torah level, it still is me'amer on a rabbinic level because it's outdoors and it looks like he's gathering the fruit together for the first time, which is a melacha. So therefore the rabbi said, don't do it. However, that's all outside. But let's say that it's spilled in his kitchen, indoors, no problem, no issue. Why? Because it's not where it grows. It never grows in a kitchen. It grows outdoors. So the whole thing doesn't begin. It doesn't even start. Clear? So far, so good?
No, I have a question.
Yeah.
What if you grow tomatoes indoors?
Mhm.
And
Okay.
is that
You have
gather
tomatoes that
them?
grow inside.
Let's say.
Okay. So then you're saying if I would have had
When
a
they
bunch of-
fell on the countertop, and now can you gather and use the tomatoes?
that's a nice question. I would say no, because that's where they normally grow.
So it's not only outdoor. Outdoor.
Usually it's the language of Chazal is makom gidulo, wherever it grows. So
Where it
usually it means outside, but you're right. If it's inside, then you have a
People
point.
grow things that should be bug-free indoors, like herbs.
Mhm.
I grew at one point herbs that I wanted it to be bug-free. I grew it indoors.
Nice. Okay, so there you have it.
So it's
Yeah.
from where it grows, doesn't it?
Yes, from where it grows. Correct.
Okay.
Well, if it falls, I just want to, if it falls down, like indoors, because it's growing indoors, you're not allowed to gather it back together.
If you're gathering it together, that would be a problem. Yeah, you can take it up one by one. You take a tomato over here, a tomato over there.
But you can't.
You can't make them into a pile. Right.
What about flowers? Let's see the flowers growing.
Beautiful.
Um,
You cannot make a bouquet of flowers.
right, no, I
Right.
know, but let's say like sometimes it grows on the ground. Can you kind of gather it to grow it out or put something?
You mean they spilled everywhere?
Like sometimes they will down.
Like they started
Yeah.
to come apart. Yeah, I wouldn't see that as a problem. Again, it's not where it's inside. They don't grow there. That's not. Yeah, but to actually make a bouquet for the first time, let's say, that would be a problem. Me'amer. Yeah.
Is gathering, does it really just have to do with something that's growing? Or?
Yes, something that's growing. It's not something that
Not
is
like if you have clothes. you would
Yeah,
fold them
correct,
and
correct.
gather them.
100%. Correct.
So orchids that would grow like inside your house,
Uh-huh.
petals fall. Gather them.
I haven't ever seen anyone say that. I don't think that I believe that it's fine, but I want to research it a little bit and get back to you. I don't see that. I've never seen anyone say it's a problem, but I can't tell you why. Yeah.
You said that if it falls out of the basket, you can put it back in.
Where?
Let's say you're
Indoors, no problem, because it doesn't grow indoors.
No, let's say you're outside, you already gathered red apples already. in the basket.
Right.
And they fall out of it.
So now if they dispersed everywhere, so now you have a problem because it looks like me'amer. It's not really me'amer. Why? Because it already was gathered. So therefore, it's not a doraita me'amer, but the rabbi still prohibited it.
So it just falls, like literally just fell out.
If it falls and it's like still in a pile over here, then it's no problem. Put it back in. Yeah. Sorry.
How about leaves? If there's a lot of gather leaves somewhere at home.
Leaves. That's a nice question. I would think it's a problem. It's outdoors. It's where they are. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
Does gathering mean like literally you go like this?
Yeah.
Or like one by one?
If you're making them a pile, if you're making them together, like for example, if you're taking figs and making it into that, like, what's that called? You know that the fig cake they sell in the store? It's not a cake. It's like the fig circle, you know, like that. Yeah. That fig circle, like to press them all together. So that would be a problem of man there.
Using a basket and like one by one,
Yeah,
that's gathering.
exactly. To put them all together.
Or stick.
Interesting question that comes up. They talk about this over here too. A pearl necklace that ripped, and the pearls are all over the floor. So now, can you restring it to the necklace? So first of all, the answer is you cannot restring it to the necklace because that would be gathering together. So they stay like that. Now, it already was gathered, so it's not me'amer d'oraita, but it appears like me'amer, and therefore it's a problem. But you shouldn't have to lose all of them, so you could put them all in a bowl, and that would be okay. The poskim do say that. So they shouldn't lose them.
It's not from its source of growth.
Yeah.
So that's a nice question.
Also, this is-
That's a nice question. I don't have a good answer for you. I do know that's what they say though. That
It's a problem because maybe you're sewing because you're going in and you're going out, but I don't know why it's a problem.
no, it's not. It's not a sewing thing. It's a question of gathering them in a way that you're going to keep it like that. Here, you're just putting it in like a bowl, and it's not going to stay this way. You're eventually going to put it back together, and so you're not like doing the finishing touches on it.
Yeah, but it's not, like what she said. it's
Yeah,
just-
I hear.
it's an
I have to look it up.
Okay.
I hear. I'll look it up again. I know that's what they say, but I can't tell you more than that. Yeah.
I have to say something for something that grows. Is
So
it grows
it could
from
be
it?
that pearls are considered gidulei karka. Maybe this is a potential an answer that it's considered something that grows from the ground because it does grow in the sea technically. That could be considered gidulei karka, which means something that grows from the ground. I'm not sure. I have to get back to you.
So even if it's indoors?
And diamonds, would diamonds?
I believe so.
Would diamonds also, because they also usually grow from mines.
I hear. But usually if you don't have a pile of diamonds, you know,
I don't know,
Yeah.
like, sometimes, like, I
Yeah.
don't know. Sometimes-
nice problem to have, you know.
No, but
Yeah.
sometimes, no,
Yeah.
things break, I don't know,
I hear.
with kids.
Okay, maybe we'll stop over here. I think that's a nice little, I'll follow up with you on that one for the pearls. Okay, guys, chazakim b'ruchim.